Florida. Snehal Batra, partner and managing attorney at NPZ's Raritan office, joins me. Hello, Snehal, how are you?
Hi, Vijaya. I'm very good. Gamcho to all our listeners out there.
Game show to you too. So welcome, Snehal. There's this question that comes up is what happens when you enter on a fiancé visa and then don't get married?
Right. Yeah, that actually does happen. And, we've seen a lot of shows on TLC, right, with the 90-day fiancé visa, and it's very entertaining. But, in reality, the K-1 is the fiancé visa when the U.S. citizen petitions for their foreign national fiancé to travel to the U.S. so that they can get married. And the person who is back home in their country is actually saying to the immigration service that they agreed to marry their partner within 90 days of entering the U.S. And the petition process, in many cases takes up to 2 years to bring your fiance to the U.S. from filing, getting scheduled for an interview, and then arriving into the U.S. And if all goes well, the foreign national travels here, and now they have to make plans to get married in 90 days. And that's what we call the 90-day window. If they do get married, then great. Then the foreign national spouse is going to be applying for adjustment of status. And it all sounds simple, but, in the real world, it's not always easy, especially for many of our Indian clients, who may be introduced to one another by their families, and they travel back home to get engaged and file the fiancé petition, and the foreign national comes to the U.S. and things are not what they expected, or worse, their partner is not what they expected. So unfortunately, this does happen, but keep in mind, this is a temporary visa that simply permits your fiancé to enter the U.S. for the purposes of getting married. It's not a way for you to bring somebody here so that you can get to know them, spend more time together, and decide whether or not you want to get married. You have to marry each other. But people change their mind. So what happens if you don't actually get married? Then what? Well, the foreign national has to leave the U.S. within that 90-day period because the K-1 is only valid for 90 days. You cannot extend that, okay? It was issued with the expectation that you're going to be married. And if you don't get married, then it's best to leave because if you don't, it's going to cause problems in the future for your immigration status because you cannot remain in the U.S. and marry someone else. You have to marry that original fiancé, and if you overstay, you're going to trigger possibly unlawful presence issue if you leave. So, you have to leave. But another scenario is when you get married and then get divorced before the green card is issued. So what's interesting is that while you do have to get married to your U.S. citizen fiancé, you don't necessarily have to stay married. So, sometimes relationships don't work out as expected, but if you do get married and you have a bona fide intention that you're going to get married and live together, share a common life, and you subsequently get divorced, you can still pursue that green card without your spouse as long as the spouse filed that affidavit of support on your behalf. And they want to keep that. They don't withdraw that. Okay, so and that's got to be filed by your U.S. citizen spouse that sponsored you for the fiancé visa. So the takeaway here is if you enter on the K-1, you can't change your status to another status. You can't marry somebody else and adjust your status and remain in the U.S. You have to marry your K-1 petitioner. So think long and hard about this process because it could really cause issues. If you decide, look, I'm just going to maybe get there and see what happens. And if things don't work out, I'll go my separate ways. Really it's not that simple. So if you are in the US on the K-1 and you didn't get married, please reach out to us. And we can see if you have any other options available to you.
Absolutely. Options and opportunities in love, marriage, divorce, and all of that. So thank you for that, Snehal. That's Snehal Batra of the NPZ Law Group, providing counsel to companies and individuals worldwide on complex US and Canadian immigration nationality law issues. Call them today and mention Mirchi for a special discount at 201-670-00.